Hello, everyone, and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Royal News Network. I hope you guys are all having a super fantastic and amazing Friday. So much to go over. I mean, of course, really a lot of it's going to be about Harry and Meghan in NYC, but we also have a really profound interview with Prince William and a woman whose husband tragically died right after her son, and it was self-inflicted when it came to the husband. And so that was definitely a very emotional interview. And so I just think that will be awesome to go over. But oh my gosh, so many things about Harry and Meghan. And the biggest thing that we just want to touch on and just like highlight is how Harry and Meghan like to give awards to themselves, basically. They paid for and arranged to have this award one way or another. But real royals uplift everybody, not just themselves. And so I think that's a really important distinction to begin with. Like, there's been a couple of other things, but I think probably for most of this video, it'll be about the New York trip and other things. And so much to analyze here today. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, we will get into all of the nitty gritty because, oh man. So, initially, when I had started like conceiving, well, whether or not to do a live stream or a like video today, I released a video earlier. If you guys haven't watched it, you should go ahead and do so after the live stream. So, it's kind of about how Harry, in this particular instance, gets it all wrong when it comes to the media, to the internet and internet safety. And Catherine gets it really very right, which is that it's what people put their intention and focus on. And that's something that people can choose to do themselves. So I did see Shaz here, Brittany, loving the earrings. Thank you. I got these from the Tower of London, I believe. So I was just thinking of something really quick to put in my ears this morning. So I'm like, I'll just shove these in here real quick. So yes, when it comes to how people keep themselves safe online, Catherine says, well, it's really about what you do. And Harry's like, no, it's the algorithm's problem. If we can just fix the algorithm, we'll fix the world, guys. The world will be fixed. All the horribleness will be like taken away if you can just fix the algorithm. Yeah, that's Harry's perspective there. And we did have Diz Fan who gave a super chat here. Thank you so much. Finally catching up on my royal watching after a week at the beach with family. Well, I thank you so much. I hope you had a fantastic week with your family because it's important to get away from the internet, guys. Because actually, an interesting comparison, I realize we're jumping around a little bit here, but one of the things was like last night, I filmed that video with Harry and Catherine last night about their perspectives, but I had something to do earlier that day, just taking care of a family member. And then I went and did small group. So I walked away from the internet. And I feel like that's such an incredible thing, an important thing to do is that I feel the pressure to get things out all the time, but I decide sometimes not to. I decide, well, you know what? It's better to spend time with family. It's better to spend time with spiritual things rather than doing everything on the internet, being focused on the internet, watching every little bit of Harry and Meghan arriving on this red carpet. And so I think that's just so incredibly important because Harry and Meghan just seem to think if we can punish Meta and YouTube or Google, I guess you could say technically, and TikTok and X, and if you can punish those platforms for alleged bad behaviors, that will fix the world. And that's just not possible at all because the thing is, the internet is a move, it's a living thing basically at this point. And unfortunately, the internet is bad because people are bad. That's why the internet is bad. That's why there's 7 layers of hell on the internet. It's the internet. It's human beings. The internet, like any tool, like a gun, it can't be used unless somebody fires it. So it's just kind of interesting, different things. So I realize that again, we're jumping around here, but I just want to again reiterate that so incredibly much as you watch and we look through Harry and Meghan, smiling and grinning and being on the red carpet, that they're not helping anybody by doing that. They're literally helping nobody by doing that. And they don't give people the good tools to help themselves succeed. Because when it comes to Harry and Meghan, they want to blame everybody else and they want to give themselves accolades without actually helping real people. Because to help real people needs to tell them sometimes the truth that they don't want to hear, which is exactly what Catherine did, which is put down your phones, connect, don't let the internet raise your children. And I hate to say it, but even though Harry and Meghan keep going, well, our kids are only 6 and 4 or 5 and 3 or, 4 and 2 or whatever, I get the sense that they park their kids in front of their phones. I just get the sense of that because Catherine and William, I think, walk the walk and talk the talk. I can 100% see them not giving their phones to their kids. That's what they said. That's what I believe because we see it reflected in how the kids behave. Because could Harry and Meghan's kids sit for a 2.5-hour long parade for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee and sit there and be appropriate at the time without somebody shoving a phone in their face? I don't know. I just don't know. And I think again, as it's just like the Diana car accident situation where Harry keeps focusing on the press when it's really a seatbelt that was actually the difference between life and death, probably for his mother. If she had been wearing a seatbelt, she would be alive today. And that's what he never ever focuses on. It's just like the internet. He doesn't ever focus on the actual personal responsibility we have and the parental responsibility people have to help protect their children. And the thing is, it's really, really hard not to do the internet. It's really, really hard. But I know people who do. And I know people who make it a huge intention day after day to consciously buck the global trend, which is to shove a phone in front of a kid's face if they get fussy. That is not easy at all. I don't like I understand sometimes, your kid's going crazy on the plane and you need to the phone is your last resort. I get that. But I do think that sometimes parents just they see the convenience and they use it. And unfortunately, regardless of how many parental controls you have on a phone, things still get through. And so I feel like number one, that is always important to go over. Like every single time, I always just want to say, parents, it's your responsibility. Don't let the internet parent your kid and don't be waiting on an algorithm to change to protect your kid. I don't mean to be harsh, but that is your job. It's not the internet's job, it's your job. And I just say that just again, not to be rude to anybody or anything, but I think that's really, really important to state because that's the lessons I hope people take. Not just, well, if only Google could change things, if only Instagram can change things, everything would be better. Terrible, horrible move. Don't rely on somebody else. You can only control yourself. So just wanting to put that out there again. I always want to get up on my soapbox about that because it's like, oh my gosh, the things Harry and Meghan talk about, I'm like, Jiminy Christmas. Because let me see if I have it here. If not, I'll have to look it up. Okay, so oh my gosh, guys. So let's listen to a little bit of what Meghan did today. So she opened a session today, and we'll kind of, I guess, go backwards in time, start with right now. There might be more, but oh my gosh, Meghan says like the most asinine thing. And I'm like, do you not know how to do X? I guess apparently, according to Meghan Markle, we don't anymore. So it's an interesting thing. And then, of course, later we'll go into, again, William's recent discussion with a woman that they did for like International Mental Health Day, which is today. And so it's so important to highlight those things. And what they talked about, I think, is really, really important. So we did have, though, a super chat from Diz Fan who says, do you think one of the misconceptions that Harry and Meghan has is the fact that Diana and Charles played press by popularity? Ooh, that's an interesting question because yes, Harry and Meghan constantly are chasing the popularity train and they seem to think, again, that flashing lights equals popularity. So when they're on the red carpet and all these photographers are trying to get their picture and saying, oh, Meghan, look this way. Oh, you look great. They're just doing that to get a good picture. They don't really care about you. Like the photographers, they just want their shot so they can make money. Like that's just sort of the reality. Now, granted, of course, royals stand in front of flashing photographers as well, but it's just a very different situation because again, Harry and Meghan, it's all about self-gratification. and self-indulgence and self-congratulations. So I would say again, if you are doing charity to get accolades from others, you're probably really not doing charity right. I don't even think you're doing charity at all, to be quite honest, because charity should be about, I think, the personal movement of your heart to do something, not to get the clicks and accolades from it. And I always feel like Meghan's always been kind of on the I need accolades train. And so that's why she does charity. But that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I think the popularity, they misinterpret what it means to be royal. And people who chase the popularity bandwagon always end up in sort of a bad spot because Anne has become popular not because she was chasing popularity, but because she wasn't and she just did her job. That's why she's popular. That's a great lesson to take. So Carol gifted 1 Royal News Network memberships. Why, thank you so much, Carol. That is so sweet of you. And we also have Christine as well, who also gifted a Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Christine. That is so incredibly kind of you. And I'm sure somebody who is really, really going to appreciate it. So let's listen to this a bit of this Meghan thing because I was like, okie dokie. Oh my goodness, she's just not I feel like she's telling us something that's so bare bones basic that it's almost really sad that she has to say this, and she thinks, I think, that she's telling us something really, really profound by saying this. So let's just listen to the beginning of it.
My husband's gonna sit this one out. He just got me. How's everybody doing today?
And can we take a look at that outfit? How terrible is that? How terrible is that? It's so bad. It's so bad. Oh my gosh. The blues don't go together at all. None of this goes together, guys. None of it goes together. I think it looks terrible. And what's interesting, and I'll probably do more about this on the fashion side, which is that Meghan, number one, she wore a suit last night, which I think was not a good fit for her. Actually kind of made her look kind of stumpy. It wasn't very flattering on her. And I think she did that in part because Catherine is wearing a bunch of suits and she wears them well. But again, Catherine's like 4 inches taller than she is. Makes a huge difference in what type of suit you can wear. And then we also have like, she's re-wearing the Wimbledon shirt there, guys. And of course, as many people pointed out, wrinkles. So yeah, she needs to be taller for certain outfits and she's just not tall enough to pull certain things off. I've said this a lot of times, but it's very good for people to just generally understand about fashion is that you have to be a certain height to pull certain things off. You just do. The length just really does matter. Like especially covering your feet that can elongate you or it can make you look stumpy. I think it makes Meghan look stumpy, to be quite honest. I don't think it elongates her. Actually, when you compare her, and again, this is probably going to be on the fashion video I'll do today. When she wore a suit that was an Alexander McQueen when she was engaged to Harry at a particular event, it was sort of shorter. It was like cigarette style pants. So they were a bit thinner, tighter. And I actually think that elongated her better than these long lines here because that can help or it cannot. It depends on tailoring so much. It depends on your actual height. And I just think the blues like clash horribly. And also got to say, the bun does not work for Meghan Markle. I don't think the bun is flattering at all on her. And she's tried it twice. And I think she's doing it because she doesn't want to be like Catherine. And so she's like, well, and Catherine wears her hair down. So I'll wear my hair up. And it's just, it doesn't like the thing is, and I could be totally wrong, but I feel like Meghan just really focuses on wanting to be like Catherine so much and wants to compete so badly. And Catherine does not care. And Catherine, yeah, she had a bad hair day a couple of weeks ago. I did not like her hair at the National History Museum or Natural Science Museum. I didn't think it looked particularly good. And I'll say so. I don't think this hair looks good either. But Catherine, of course, has sticks to her looks. You can like them, you can loathe them, but she sticks to herself. So Catherine's not going to change up her hairstyle just because of something Meghan Markle did. But Meghan Markle will definitely change up her hairstyle to kind of be a counter to Catherine because Meghan hasn't done the bun in quite a while. And again, it's not looking good for her. And we do have Christine as well gifted another Royal News Network membership. I thank you so much, Christine. That again is so, so incredibly kind of you. All right, so let's keep going here.
Well, we are so thrilled to be here to support, of course, what is happening in this space and on this very important day with Project Healthy Minds. So for this next panel, we're going to turn to one of the most urgent questions facing families today.
Now, you might think it's how do we manage the internet? How do we, let's say, in an age when kids are, let's say, developing faster, or like Princess Madeline of Sweden asking, hey, my kids are all of a sudden interested in skincare because unfortunately they're seeing stuff on TikTok or their friends are seeing things. And so, how do we address that? Like, interesting questions. This is the question Meghan Markle answers. This is the age-old question that you've never ever heard before, ever, because it's so incredibly obvious.
What's happening to childhood, and how and what do we do to allow our children to just be children?
There you guys go. The brain trust of Meghan Markle. How do we let children be children? I don't know. You just let them be children and don't put them on the internet. This is not rocket science. It's not rocket science. This is not hard. This is not hard. And she's like, well, how do we let children be children? I don't know. Let your kid be your kids. Okay, so here's an interesting story that may be of interest to people. And it's one of those things where I can say I have seen children be children regardless of the circumstance that they're in. So at one point for my job, I actually went to a refugee camp in Uganda. It was people from South Sudan. And so we were there and kids had created, like, I think it was, I want to say it was like UN trucks. And they had created them out of cardboard from boxes they would get from various things. And they had created some, and they had made little wheels and stuff, like totally homemade toys. Why? Because kids will be kids. But if you stick them in front of a phone, yeah, you will see a change because you're letting your phone dictate your kid, not letting, childhood and the natural impulses of children, which need to be mitigated and managed. That's how we become healthy, successful adults. Is how do we address these things? And yeah, sorry, Carol, I just saw your statement. What an asinine statement from Meghan. It is. It's an asinine statement. How do we let kids be kids? Just let them be kids. And protect them as much as you can from the internet. Don't give them a phone. I think Harry and Meghan, their kids will get phones probably before they're 10. That's going to be my guess. Because Harry and Meghan, again, or the reason Harry and Meghan won't give their kids phones is not because they are trying to get their kids outside more, or they're trying to minimize phone impact or something like that, like Catherine and William are. They won't do that because, well, Google won't do what they want them to do. And it's like a company is not required to follow your specific guidelines, because what that's going to result in is censorship, which is going to be worse. The thing is, the internet, social media apps are not designed for children. They are designed for adults. And so if your childhood is being robbed by the internet, well, get rid of the internet. Like, I don't know. Groundbreaking stuff here. Yeah, it's you just need to figure out how to manage things, not say, well, childhood has disappeared because of the internet. Well, I mean, that's just not true. That's, I think, a parent thing oftentimes. Because again, it's much like wearing a seatbelt and not getting into a car with a drunk driver, which is a lesson you should take from Diana. Harry's lessons is, oh, the media is terrible. When it comes to the internet, the example or the way you should go is, no, I don't need to protect my kids by limiting their access to the internet, or just saying, well, if the internet can be fixed, then my kids will be okay. Like, sorry, I'm not making much sense here, but hopefully you guys are following along. None of this works. The best thing you can do, and I you might get sick of me saying it, but I hope anybody who ever watches this and is questioning things, I will say I don't have kids, but what I think should be kind of common sense. This is common sense. That's why it's so hard in some ways what Catherine is saying for certain people, I'm sure she's speaking to, is because they know it's common sense and they don't want it to be true, which is that really, really, as much as humanly possible, limit your kids' contact with the internet. No phones until they're 16. Maybe even before then, they can have a phone, but it can only call and text and maybe do one or two other things, and that's it. Because as really at 12 years old, all you need is a phone that calls and texts somebody. You don't need the internet. And so if that's and that can be done, it's just going to be really hard. which is going to be really, really hard. But the brain trust that is Meghan Markle goes, well, childhood has just disappeared. So let's listen to it again.
Facing families today. What's happening to childhood? And how and what do we do to allow our children to just be children?
So again, the actual simple answer to this question is get out, touch grass, force them to play outside. Like that's kind of Captain Obvious in this situation. So, but apparently too hard for Meghan Markle. Just got to say. All right, we do have the Peggy Spungen. Thank you so much for the super chat, who says, remember when Princess Catherine threw her hair back in that bun, just pinned it back like it was nothing, and she looked absolutely stunning. Yes. And that did get people's tongues wagging because they're like, wow, she could do that by herself. And all I think about, maybe that's what Meghan is trying to emulate as well. Because I always feel like Meghan's constantly copying people because, again, she doesn't really have a solid identity of her own. And she's also scared that nobody will like the real her because she probably, at the end of the day, really doesn't like the real her either. She has a massive inferiority and superiority complex that are constantly clashing. And so I think that's part of it. But yeah, it's not a good look on her. Like if the bun is up higher, it might be okay. Or like what I do is like the side swipe, it kind of gives it, but the really severe pulled back bun, I mean, it's just not a good look for her. It's just really, really not. So I just don't think it does her absolutely any favors at all. So we do also have Carol as well, who gave a super chat. Thank you so much. $9.99 says Harry and Meghan, so they don't know what they are talking about constantly. Yes, they have no idea what they're talking about. And I almost called this again Groundhog's Day, this video, but then I changed my mind because we are getting the same slop time and time again, the same talking points basically. And not only are they leading some people astray, which I truly believe they are, which I think is kind of abhorrent, but at the same time, it's none of what they're saying is actually helpful to anybody at all. Like they come across as just incredibly disconnected and everything. I don't think it's flattering for either of them, but I don't think they know what else to do either. So that is it. Actually, Joe said, so olive oil. Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is. So let's go ahead though. And so she gives a little intro. I honestly haven't listened to the whole thing and I don't really care to, but I just thought this would be funny to watch till the end. There's Katie Couric comes in. And then the guy, that's James Holt. That's Harry and Meghan's, one of Harry and Meghan's team members there. He was saving her seat. Hold on, let's watch this again. Yeah, that's James Holt. Sorry, I'm pretty sure that's James Holt. And now, hold on, let me turn down the music because the music might get me copyright striked, which would be annoying. So this is the guy speaking. Do I care? No. Does anybody care? No. Azima says, why is Katie there? She is part of the speaking team. And these are, I feel like, how should I put this? These are sort of pointless events for people to feel good about themselves. Nothing really ever gets accomplished from these. And awards like what Harry and Meghan got are basically meaningless. They're meaningless. They're pointless. It doesn't matter. Like they can, it's basically to like lift up their egos. That's basically what it is. So I just think it's so totally pointless. But I don't know who that guy is, but this is Hello Magazine. So there's Meghan. That horrible outfit. And you can see, especially when it's more head on, how terrible the bun is for her. The bun is terrible. And I think she smiles to Katie. She doesn't even actually look at Harry, which is kind of interesting. Does she even look at him? No, she doesn't. She doesn't. She mostly is looking at and reacting to Katie. Very interesting. And whoever is next to Katie. Anyways, so that is from today. I'm curious if they have Harry spoke as well, but I haven't seen his yet. For some reason today, guys, I just haven't been feeling like super duper well. So like for me, it was a bit hard because I'm like, okay, like things are tough. But we do have Harry speaking as well. And we'll get to last night. But again, it's always entertaining to hear what these two come up with. So yeah. Let's see. So we will turn
borders, generations, and cultures. He's shown us that vulnerability is a strength and that by sharing our stories, we can help others find hope.
So I guess he's trying to introduce Harry. So the guy who literally went on national television and told us how racist his family was, only to walk it back 2 years later, aired all his dirty laundry, including his frozen tawdry, on in Spare. That's uplifting. That's empowering. Really, really. Like the guy had. I mean, he's lost his mother, but so have a lot of people. A lot of people have gone through strife. I actually knew somebody, and well, I didn't really know him. He worked at my office, but he lived through the Rwandan genocide. So he saw some real stuff. I would be very interested in hearing a book from him. Actually, I would be much more interested in hearing a book from Catherine, because to go through cancer so publicly, I think is a very uplifting story. Not this nincompoop who I think is he's so living in delusion. It's so bad.
It is an extraordinary honor to welcome him to the World Mental Health Day festival stage this morning.
So World Mental Health Day, and it's a festival? That seems really weird to me. Sorry.
Please join me in giving an enormous welcome to the stage my friend Prince Harry.
So I'm just going to turn the music down just because, again, copyright reasons. Doesn't seem like this is a really big event, probably in part because they're there. But again, this is not really to help anybody. This is for rich people to give themselves a pat on the back. That is what this event is. Always so important to highlight that.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay, I've noticed this before, that Harry, when he's starting to talk, he goes, like the first thing he does is, he should probably address it. Like, and not do that. I actually learned, now I still say on live streams and stuff, but when it comes to when I'm recording videos, guys, I actually never say like, it's rare that I ever say because I had to edit an out of a video, and I must have had to do it 50 times. And I was like, never again am I saying and somehow I like immediately cut it out, which is crazy. It's really crazy.
How are we doing today? It's wonderful. Well, we're all very, very grateful that you're here today.
So again, he can feel happy and supportive of himself. It's all about Harry. It's all about Harry and Meghan.
Today is more than just about conversation. It's about community. And over the next several hours, you'll hear from remarkable people.
All rich and wealthy, because again, this is all about helping the rich and wealthy feel like they've contributed something to society.
Researchers, advocates, parents, young people, and leaders who are reshaping how we approach our mental health here in America and around the world.
I just feel like the mental health stuff becomes too much. Okay, I'm not going to listen to this whole thing because I don't think you guys want to, and I don't really care to either. Although, again, we might get some gems here.
Now, the past 5 years have taught us painfully that crises rarely arrive in isolation.
They can also be self-inflicted. They can also be self-inflicted crises. Nobody, again, Harry, told you to go on Oprah Winfrey, told you to write a book, told you to go on Netflix, told you to do Spotify, except for maybe your wife. Nobody told you to do that. And your life kind of went sideways. And it stinks, doesn't it? But I don't really have a ton of sympathy because you didn't have to do any of this. This was all self-inflicted.
The pandemic stripped away the ordinary scaffolding of life and brought a measurable surge in anxiety, depression, and loss of connection.
Which I feel like is somewhat a government fault. At fault. Because yes. Yeah, you are so right, Gumbalina. 100%. Mental health is big business for the rich and powerful. Exactly. They can say, oh, I've helped with people's mental health and those sorts of things. It's very much a pat on the back. I feel important. It's a big business. And so most of this is not helping the people it's actually meant to help. It's just, again, for them.
War and displacement from Ukraine to Gaza, Sudan to the DRC, and many places in between.
But Harry, why didn't you go to DRC to address the issue supposedly with African parks? That you avoided that, and your aunt was recently in the DRC actually addressing real issues. You aren't doing any of that. You're sitting on a stage in Manhattan so you can get accolades from a crowd.
Have created waves of trauma for those defending their countries and their way of life, for civilians, for families forced to flee.
So war is complex. And I feel like he's giving it a very well, it's hard, but there are so many international actors at play that war is not something you can really address easily.
Climate disasters have translated into eco-anxiety and psychological upheaval as extreme weather uproots communities and destabilizes lives.
So, what was I going to say? Something about, they did have the California wildfires. I do have to pause every 15 seconds, which is annoying. But yeah. Oh, and Clifford, you're so right. They displaced the DRC people. Yes, they did, according to African Parks. He displaced them, but that's fine if they do it. It's not fine though if the conflict does it. The DRC has been in conflict for so long, and again, I worked a bit in nonprofits, and so I know it's like parts of it are hugely dense jungles, very, very difficult to have. Like, really, the control of the DRC resides basically in the capital and nowhere else. It's a country in literal borders only. It exists in theory, but to have actual widespread control, it just doesn't exist in the DRC. So
our digital world has fundamentally changed how we experience reality. Young people exposed to relentless comparison, harassment, misinformation, and an attention economy designed to keep us scrolling at the expense of sleep and real human contact.
So I imagine here that Harry and Meghan, we've been told they doom scrolls through social media all the time. So really, he's speaking about himself, not necessarily young people. And so when it comes to, in this instance, Harry's and Meghan's perception of things, all of this mental health things that they're allegedly helping parents with and everything, the only thing they're really trying to help is themselves. This is all about Meghan's being allegedly trolled online. That's what they're always trying to address, is that, not really, I don't think, the actual mental health experiences of other people. It's really, at the end of the day, yes, I think they're moved by some things, but really this is all about serving Harry and Meghan. And at least that's my personal opinion.
And, of course, economic instability, from cost of living shocks to inflation, has produced constant, corrosive stress for hundreds of millions. So
that's probably true, but some of it is that we can't process stuff. I think part of I blame a bit on the mental health space, really, is that people can't deal with sort of shocks to the system anymore. So my great-grandfather lost his parents when he was really young, had to raise his younger siblings, traveled around the country to find jobs and stuff. And he was 15, 16. And did he spend the rest of his life complaining about that and being, so socially anxious and stuff that he can't function? No, he got on with life. I think almost the over attention on mental health can be detrimental to people as well, because you constantly think that you are the center of the universe. And if you're not happy, oh my gosh, I need to address X, Y, and Z. And so I think that is a horrible way to look at things and not really helpful at all.
These are not separate problems for separate people. They are interlocking injuries to our global community.
Okay, whatever. I'm done with that. I'm bored. So I feel like everything, again, with Harry and Meghan is same song, different verses. They say the same things all the time. And this is a huge part of their problem here at this point, is that everything is samey, 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 same. And it just never changes. Every complaint is absolutely the same all the time. And so because of that, again, I feel like they can't really help people because they're so focused on themselves and their issues, they can't see the broader things. And they're not offering you really any solid solutions except for to do therapy. And I'm sorry, but Harry's been in therapy for years, and I don't think it's helped him diddly squat. Because I think if you go, therapy should be used if you're going through a particular issue and you need help with that issue. But if you've been in therapy for 20 years, that's a problem, because you haven't been given the tools to successfully go through life if you need to focus on therapy so much. That is something that I think has been overindulged in our mental health, like the conversations around that. And again, you think of people before my grandparents, my great grandparents, like they just had to get on with life. They couldn't just sit there and go, "Oh my gosh, World War II. I'm so overwhelmed by World War II." Not that people didn't feel that way, but it didn't stop them dead because they couldn't function because, a massive war was going on. They just had to get on with it. And I think they were much more successful because yes, maybe they kept more things in and that impacted them in bad ways. But I also feel like we have a lot of wishy-washy people who just is like, "Oh, I'm triggered. I can't do anything." And there's certain instances where yes, triggering is important. Like we'll get to the video later with William and the woman he interviewed. And I feel like that's important to say, hey, this is something that's really something that in extreme trauma situations you have an issue with, of course, address it. Kind of like when I talk about the Marius case in Norway, there's some very, very disturbing aspects of it that I understand can be some people would have a really hard time hearing. And I think that's incredibly true and something we need to focus on. But at the same time, there's also the thing of suck it up, buttercup, or life's tough, get a helmet. Life is tough. Things aren't going to go your way. You cannot let setbacks define the rest of your life. That's just kind of crazy. So let's move on to, let's say, the next aspect of this whole event, which I would argue is sort of overall a bit of the awkwardness. I feel like we had, let's just say, a lot of awkwardness here. Sorry, I didn't mean to restart him. So I just felt like so much of this again is awkward. Now, some of it, I always try to be fair, guys, and I always try to be real because people appreciate that. But some of it comes back to just Harry being awkward at these events. Harry is not particularly good with these events. He looks awkward. And I did a screenshot last night, which might be actually helpful to sort of pull up here, of at least a couple of the pictures of Harry and Meghan. Now, there's obviously more, and we'll get to the more there, but it's kind of nice to kind of go over a bunch instead of going over just one or two. So, and pictures only tell part of the story. We'll get back to the other things later. So, this is them. And I feel like Harry is he kind of grins, sort of. And this was Meghan's outfit. And I'm sorry, but this suit did nothing for her. It did nothing for her at all. It was almost too plain. I didn't catch this later, but it's kind of slutty here. We're going down a little low. And to me, if you're going to do that as a woman, and this is just my thought, just spitballing here, you need to have a bit more of a chest to pull that off. And she just doesn't have a chest, so it just doesn't really look all that good. Now, you don't want to have be too well endowed. That is a thing too when it comes to really low cut things. But she's a little too under endowed, so can kind of read a little man a bit. And she really looks like her mom here, which I find kind of funny. But anyways, so it's just a really dull event. Now she's trying Giorgio Armani. So I think Meghan is sort of desperately trying to find a brand that's going to fully sponsor her. And she may have gotten PR and just gotten a free outfit. But again, did nothing for her. And that Catherine wore a suit earlier the day and rocked it is just very different. And so and we're doing this, and she did this. I'll try to find the videos, guys, but I want to say she did this at least 2 or 3 times. The lovingly gaze at her husband and trying to put the googly eyes in. And I'm like, you're trying too hard. We just saw Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban totally collapse, basically, and that they've been having troubles for a while, and they had been trying to do the loved up stuff. It doesn't work. Stop doing it. It's such an obvious act. And we see a totally different Meghan here in some ways than we saw in France last week. Actually, even Taz pulled out and goes, well, she's got a different color now because her skin was pretty pale in Paris. And now we have a tanner Meghan. So she's hit the bronzer again. So I think that's very, very true here. But her trying to do, and she did it twice again. When they stopped on the red carpet, she did it twice. And I'm like, why are you doing that? And she's trying so hard to be sexy. And she always has to do the over the shoulder thing, guys. if you notice, she always tries to do, like, even in Paris, she walks into the car, stops for a second, does the over the shoulder. Like, she's trying so hard. And I'm like, oh my gosh, please stop doing that. You look silly. This is part of the read I got on Meghan from day one, which was that she was a desperate D-lister, desperate for fame and fortune and attention. And she happened to, at that point, I thought initially that she was just making the story up to get her name in the papers because she was so lame without him. Lame is probably not the best word, but she was such a non-entity in terms of the entertainment industry and everything without him, that if she could attach her name to somebody infinitely more famous than she is, then she would get her 10 minutes. And I think in many ways, I still got 100% that read on Meghan correct. I got that read on Meghan correct. And this stuff, this kind of behavior just proves it again and again. Does she really feel that way about him? No, I don't think she does. She likes his money. If you put a money bag right here, that's where the love is. And I would say differently, except for the fact that Meghan never, ever acknowledges that everything she has is a result of her husband and his family. She always seems to act like she's the one who did something. And like, it's just like, no, everything you have accomplished really nothing without your husband in the last 7-8 years. Everything has been as a result of Harry and Harry's influence and Harry's money. Everything has really been about him. That's the only reason they got signed at all, is because of him. That's the only reason they were willing to indulge it. Netflix is a $100 million deal only because he had connections to the royal family, and that was it. She has not accomplished anything really of her own on her own talents and merits. It's all as a result of the connection. She has yet to prove that she can do something without him. And I just have to say, like, I find that really, really distasteful. Why can't you just acknowledge that you are there by grace of your husband and really no other reason? Because she acts like everybody in the world, finally discovered the brilliance of Meghan. It always drives me nuts. I'm sorry. It just does. It just does. Be real. And so we just got a bit of awkwardness here. And again, Harry's just super duper awkward. Super duper awkward. And I want to see if they have a full video. It doesn't look like they do, but E! News has a short, and there is a sort of an interesting case where, and maybe we can slow it down so that way people can see it a bit more. But Meghan definitely, I feel like gave a little bit of like her mask dropped, and it just happened to be the angle that E got. So let's watch. So again, Meghan's trying to, oh, I guess I can't do short. Meghan, look at that eye. She is not happy. Oops, I'm not showing it. My goodness, guys, I'm so sorry. Hold on, let's see if we can roll it back again. But anyways, guys, that's the image that, and I won't. So she was not happy, and then the smile came back. So let's watch it again. So again, always the fake smile, always the look back. Then she goes that way, and then she realizes he's not there, and she's like, "What are you doing? Why aren't you with me? You should be right here. Where are you at?" Like, I don't think that's a particularly happy face. She's like, why aren't you here? Why do people, because the thing is, people really at the end of the day want to talk to him. They don't really want to talk to her. She comes with him and they indulge her because he's there, but he is the draw. He has always and will always be the draw. And I think Meghan's probably like her absolute annoyance is that people don't recognize her brilliance. And it's like, well, that's kind of life sometimes, but honestly, you married a guy who is infinitely more successful than you, or not successful, infinitely more famous than you are. And so because of that, you're just never going to get what you want out of the relationship and out of the dynamic. And the reason is because he's more famous. He is more influential. He is so many things, and you are not. And you have not been able to, I think by any stretch of the imagination, or at least when it comes to Meghan, able to prove that she can stand on her own without him. That was what With Love Meghan as ever, everything was for, and none of it worked. So Tiz fan said, I don't like her loose hair in that style. It was funny because it really looked like her from like 15 years ago. And again, like I suspected it might have been a nose job, but Meghan, I think, was smart. She knew that a nose job would be too on the nose, pardon the pun. But I think she realized it would be too on the nose if she got a nose job because people would be looking for that. But do I think she got some sort of facelift? I think she probably did. I think that's why we didn't see her for a period of time, is that she got a facelift. Now, nothing necessarily wrong with that, although her fans will go, oh, she's just aging so amazingly. No, she got work done, most likely, because she was not showing her face for like a month plus. And the only reason I can think so is that, yeah, she was getting something done and she needed to recover, because that's the only thing that makes sense. But a nose job would have been too on the nose. So she got something else. But yeah, she really wants to recapture her youth. If I was Harry and my wife was getting some plastic surgery or something like that, in that particular relationship, I'd be worried she's trying to find another Mark and trying to kind of rejuvenate herself before finding somebody else. But Meghan will always, I think, struggle because she has failed at every level to create an identity that is not attached to Harry and his success. That's the thing, is that she can't seem to understand that. And she thinks it's about her when it's really, really not. And that's just something so important for her understand of like for her and Harry and like their life and everything, is that if she can't understand that her draw is him, like that's it. She's, I think, going to be infinitely miserable. And I think she is sort of miserable in some ways because she really, really, really wants people to like think the sun and the moon of her, but she has failed at every level to make herself into somebody that people would be like, would see that from. So it's just like so obvious. But Meghan, again, not super, she's so self-defeating. She defeats herself like all the time, guys. And it's just like kind of sad because she could be in such a better place if she did it. But yeah. So let me go ahead and see if I can find this person, because I want to show some of the other videos of them arriving, because it was just so interesting to see kind of a bit of the walkthrough and everything. So oops, I put Mary instead of Harry and Meghan. Let's see if that does it here. So we will mute it and see if we can do a full video, and you can see Meghan and Harry kind of dragged her up there because I think he's super awkward. And I did want to thank Carol as well, once again, giving a Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Carol. You are so kind. And so I did pull up Access Hollywood here. So let's watch. Hold on. Of course, I forget it. But Meghan was just trying really, really hard, guys, to sell the love. She was trying really, really hard. So she does that look to him. So let's count it once. And then they stop again. And then I think and twice. 2 times, guys, she pulls the same move. Like, oh my gosh. Why are you pulling the same move twice? Oh, come on. It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Like, why do you keep doing that? And then she has to look over her shoulder. They greet whoever that guy is. Okay, they're just showing pictures. Let's get back to this. She's trying to stand at attention or whatever and trying to get the pictures because she wants the pictures. And Harry's like focusing over there. So they're not really like in lockstep at all. They're just dragging each other around. So it's just really kind of funny. But of course, they have to cling to each other. as if they're children. Of course, again, somebody grabs Harry's attention and he goes back and she's not super happy about that. And so I don't really care what is his name? I forget what his name is. Oh, I forgot his name, but he's oh gosh, what is his name? Now it's going to bug me. Let's go back here. They should lower bar him, but they didn't. So anyways, I know who that is. You guys probably know who that is. He was over TRL Live. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Anyways, so that was them on the red carpet. Just a little bit too much, right? Just a little bit too much. They're trying a little bit too hard. And then we won't listen to their whole speech because again, it's like the same things they've said 12,000 times at this point. But we can definitely watch them kind of leave. And I thought it was interesting that they didn't really, let's say, cling to each other as much as they usually do, which I thought was a little odd. But maybe they're actually taking this seriously.
This vital work. Thank you. We appreciate it.
What did he say to her? Let's see if we can see. Does anybody know what he said to her? He said something. All right, let's listen to it one more time. I do apologize, but I'm just now curious. What did he say to her? Okay, I couldn't tell. So he kind of does the arm around her, and then they awkwardly walk out. And she's trying to do the sexy walk, I feel like. Oh, trying so hard and yet failing every time. Carson Daly. That's right, Carol. Thank you. Carson Daly. I knew it. I was like, I know who that is. I know who that is. So, just a little bit awkward. I mean, it is what it is. But I just feel like all of this is just so useless, in my opinion. And I did want to point out something else. So this is sort of the other, let's say, facet of this trip, which is starting to get, I feel like, ever weirder. It's starting to get really, really weird and kind of creepy. And so we do have to go to Sussex.com. And this is one of the pictures. So Harry, and it's not framed well. So Harry, Meghan, and Meghan's friend Marcus. Why is he always there? It's getting weird. Like, it's getting really, really weird. Why is he there? I don't understand. But we do have Sheila. Thank you so much, Sheila, for becoming a member. We really do appreciate it here so much. And then Marcus was, of course, with her last weekend in Paris, and now he's here. And it's just something that's getting super duper, duper, duper odd. Yes, Tamfit says, I posted this on X, 3 in the marriage. Yeah, it becomes the 3 in the marriage. So Harry will one day say there was 3 of us in this marriage, me, Meghan, and Marcus. And not that I think Marcus has, let's say, sexual inclinations towards either one of them. I don't think. But it's getting to where it's like, do they need him as a crutch to get through events together or something? Like, I would not be taking my best friend around with me and dragging him around with me as let's say, I'm doing a speaking engagement or something, unless he's an employee of hers. But I don't think he is an employee. I think he's literally just, I mean, he's maybe her fixer or her like smooth operator or something. I don't get it, but it just reads to me as really weird. You should not need your best buddy there to help you get through an event like this with your husband. To me, it seems like, are there problems that they need Marcus to do this? Like, it's strange. It's really, really strange. And I just can't help but think, what is his purpose? Because he was also with them at the South by Southwest event. So is he involved with the company? As far as we know, he isn't. I don't know if he's on the Archwell board. I wasn't really looking into that, so I can't really tell. But it's like he's there with them so often. it's gotten to the point where it's really getting weird. It's really getting weird to see this third wheel in their relationship all the time. And somebody said something on X, which I did think was kind of interesting, which is that when it was alleged that Meghan giggled at a model who stumbled when she was in Paris, she looked to him to kind of try to get him to laugh with her. And he just basically ignored her and just told her, like, basically shape up. Like, don't do that. It's inappropriate or whatever. And she did immediately. So somebody said in the relationship, Marcus actually might have the power, and he might. He might. And so it's just an interesting dynamic. And there really only should be two people at this event. These two. That he's in there, again, makes me wonder, what part does he play in this dynamic? Because I don't think it's just business. Because he went with her to Paris. He went with her to South by Southwest. Like, he is, I think, floating out there all the time. And yet at the same time, she also doesn't highlight him at all, like on her Instagram or anything. She doesn't highlight him. So why? Why? So Sue Smith said that Marcus always comes around when the marriage is in trouble. I don't know if I necessarily see that totally, but that he's like somehow an integral part of their relationship. Like, that should not be the case at all. A marriage should be between a husband and wife and nobody else. And even if, again, he's not playing an actual, let's say, active role in their relationship in some ways, like he's just a hangers-on, why does he need to be there all the time? It just doesn't bode well for a healthy dynamic that she needs to lean on her friend to get things through. And Marcus doesn't strike me as a guy, and Harry and Marcus don't strike me as bros. Like, I don't think they really have anything in common besides her. And so it just comes across to me as a really, really skeevy. And he just comes across as a little slimy to me. I don't really know that much about him, but he just comes across as slimy. And so the more I see him, the more slimier he seems. So it's really weird. And that he's next to her. So like he's like her comfort blanket or something to have her gay best friend there. It's just really, really weird. And he's there and he's not there. Like he kind of is in front of the camera and he's not in front of the camera. It's just the whole thing. I'm curious where that'll go. But I don't see it as a very healthy dynamic if you need your friend there to kind of constantly skid the wheels for you in different situations. Or is he working for her in some way and we just don't know it? It's just a weird, weird question. So the whole thing, guys, is just absolutely odd. This has been, of course, a weird event in so many ways. And Harry and Meghan, I don't think help anybody. I just don't think they do. Don't think they help anybody. And I think they're only in this as ever for themselves. Now, I did want to show you guys one more picture of Meghan with the bun. Guys, the bun just does not do anything for her. It's just absolutely terrible. If I was suggesting to Meghan, I'd say drop the bun. Drop the bun right now. It does nothing for you. She tried it last week and it looked terrible there too. That whole outfit is awful. And I didn't want to like the blues don't match at all. So you have like kind of a brighter blue with thick lines and then a solid strong navy blue here. I guess this whole outfit was Ralph Lauren. So I guess again, she's really working her angles for fashion. But I think a striped shirt with these pants would have worked even with this color if the lines were much thinner. I think to work, they had to be much thinner. So that is just my personal suggestion. I would just say to Meghan overall, though, buns are not your friend. So I would drop the buns if I was her. And Stacey had a question because I've seen several people ask, Brittany, you have a Band-Aid on your finger for weeks now. What did you do to your finger? So I've had this on my finger for over a week. So when I was in Nice, I was packing up my bag, and at some point, and I'm not even sure quite how I did it because I didn't even notice it right away. Like I noticed something hurt, I think, but I didn't really notice it. Like I really cut my finger good packing. So I think I pinched it, and I must have actually like pulled up a decent amount of flesh or something because it is taking a long time to heal. Like this is not a simple. I'm actually gonna have to change out this Band-Aid and put another on. This is, I think, my 4th Band-Aid on it. And I do actually have like special like Neosporin Band-Aids and stuff like that, but it still hasn't healed very well. So that's just something, again, People have been asking, so it's not a great mystery, but I just really cut my finger on my suitcase. So, but let's go ahead and get to Prince William's recent talk because he did get emotional about it, and I don't know how much we can share, but this is they call it Rianne's story here. And obviously here is the content warning. And again, I'm not a full fan of always having content warnings on things. Sometimes I think they get a little bit overwrought, but I do think in this particular occasion, it is important to, like, if people have an issue with some of these things, obviously this discusses, you could see it right there. And it's just weird that YouTube won't let you say certain things, but he decided to end his life after the death of his child. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that before we started the video, because I haven't actually watched the whole thing yet, but I just did think, because we did have two people who did things entirely for themselves. Let's look at somebody who's highlighting somebody else. And in this case, William is highlighting this family's tremendous loss and the impact that suicide has. So let's go ahead.
Everyone loved Paul. Everybody. Always pinched myself when we were together that he'd chosen me really to be the one to marry. We very quickly got pregnant.
That's very sweet. Sorry, I do have to pause, guys, for copyright reasons, so you'll have to excuse me.
Had Holly, our eldest, and then went on very quickly to have Isaac. George was our third. He was just an incredible addition to the family, you know, and everyone used to say that he was the happiest little boy ever.
Oh, it's so sweet.
Did we take it for granted? Probably. I think a lot of people do at that age. We just presumed life would take us on that normal journey of growing old together. I'd only been back teaching a couple of days after my maternity leave when George fell ill at home.
So sadly, George did pass away, which we'll get to here, but it's so sad because some things you just can't, you know, not relationships, but, you know, you think you've done everything right, and, you know, an illness can still occur and there's maybe nothing you can do about it.
Very suddenly. So we had to call an ambulance to come out to the home. He was rushed to hospital. You never think anything bad's going to happen because this is your family. You see these things happen on TV.
I think that's true. People think these type of things won't happen to them, and then they're surprised.
Sadly, George was very poorly, and within 2 hours of being admitted to the hospital, he died.
Wow, that's crazy.
5 days later, after we lost George, probably the unimaginable really happened, something that we could never have ever been prepared for.
Which is, I think, on this gentleman's part, so incredibly cruel.
Totally unexpected was Paul walked out of the house and took his own life. It's really difficult to explain how grief feels. Emptiness.
That's so sad, especially that they had 2 other children. I didn't realize that at first.
Physical pain. Your heart hurts. You know, your limbs hurt, you ache. But when you lose somebody to suicide, it leaves so many questions unanswered.
Yeah, and I think that's incredibly true. Something so many people deal with. And I love this again, and the reason we're watching this is that even William doesn't even show up in the video for the first little bit here, because it's really on her telling her story, because her story is one people can feel a connection to. She was, you know, they were living their life. Everything was fine. A child gets sick, and then her husband decides to do the unimaginable right after. And I feel like people, they've experienced similar things like that. And I think that's something that so many people can feel a sympathy towards and an understanding of. Not 2 people in Manhattan getting whisked around, I'm sure, by NYPD officers, probably staying in the Carlisle, getting the best care imaginable, and them talking on a stage and telling you, oh, we don't know what childhood is like anymore. No, like people see this story and they connect to it, and it makes whatever the royals do with it more powerful in so many ways.
But I'm hoping by having increased awareness around what it is, but also the effects it has on those left behind, what causes people to walk out and never come home.
Yeah, because it is a question I'm sure people have. It's hard because you don't ever really know sometimes, and you think everything's been discussed, but you just don't always know.
Let's stand together. Let's talk about it. Let's get people in the public eye talking about it. We can help each other. This really doesn't have to be what happens.
So I don't know if you guys can tell, you can't really see it from this angle, but if you go back here, you can see that this has happened, I would say probably at least 10 plus years ago at the very least, because those are her 2 children there, and they look like they're in their teens now. So. So Rianne shared her devastating experience with Prince William when they first met in 2017. They're meeting again to pick up the conversation back up and work together on suicide prevention.
Rianne.
So what I love about this is that obviously it shows a long connection there between the two of them. And I really, really like that. And that is amazing because it's like he met her in 2017. It's 8 years later, and he's still thinking about her story, still focusing on her story. And I feel like it shows that if you meet a particular person and their story really resonates with you, that he remembers that and he wants to, because she wants to share her story to help others, he wants to help her do that.
How are you?
Hello.
So nice to see you.
Oh, so nice
After
to
all this
see
time.
you.
You did mention to come to your house a long time ago,
did,
so
you did.
I'm now here.
Well, welcome and come on in.
Thank you.
So my mum made you a cake,
Yeah, this looks very impressive. Look
but
at this.
she also wanted you to have some of her Welsh cakes. So
I love that her mother made cake. That is awesome. Her mom's maybe like, oh, you don't know how to make cake very well, dear. The prince is coming. I need to make the cake for you. I feel like that's a very mother thing.
Yes, well, can I prioritise a Welsh cake first? Would that be right?
absolutely,
Because
yes.
I do love those.
Would you like to put them on the plate?
Yeah, put them out.
Yeah.
William is definitely a cake guy. He definitely has a sweet tooth. Again, we had the whole discussion last month or 2 ago about his brownie addiction. So.
How have you been there, Rian? Because I obviously haven't caught up with you for a long time.
It's up and down. Everything's up and down. Life's up and down anyway, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But both of my kids are flourishing, and Isaac's turning into quite a nice little rugby player. And he plays the same position as Paul, would you believe?
I did.
So that.
Oh, that's so sweet. I like this kind of very casual conversation. Obviously it's set up. They know the cameras are there and everything, but it feels very natural.
That's really nice as well. So, yeah.
Good.
So I'm
Was Paul massively into his rugby then, was he?
Yeah, he played a lot of rugby, hockey and cricket at a very high level. Okay. So, yeah. And Isaac definitely takes after him. So, yeah.
That's really sweet that she can say, well, my son takes after him in this way, and I love it. And that's awesome.
It looks very much like him as well. Sporty gene, yes. Although the children yesterday told everyone that I don't have any sporty genes, which is worrying when I used to be a PE teacher.
Yes.
So,
I'm not sure you take that line now.
no.
And this looks like maybe she has remarried. So I think that's, I'll be interested to hear if she shares that or not. But yeah, I thought that was super sweet. She's like, I don't have the sporty gene, but my son does. My husband did. So George, Paul, and Gigi, and Dee. So that maybe was her father or something. There's her son and her daughter.
Rian, how have you managed to bring up your children so brilliantly as you have? How have they managed to thrive?
They've just grown up to be incredible kids and young adults.
I like that. That's a great question. I think William is asking, how do you, what has it been like for the kids?
I look back and I still don't really know how we survived it. People ask me that a lot, like, how do you do it? And I don't really know.
I actually think that's probably quite true in some ways, is that because you're just kind of surviving, and in an actual situation where survival is really a huge factor in it, you probably just don't remember everything.
So young, the memories they've got now are memories that probably I've placed into their minds. I still worry a lot about what tomorrow's going to bring our family. But when I'm trying to be rational and trying to think positively,
Yeah, I'm sure that's true because they were so young that, how much of it is their memory versus how much of it is the one she shared that they've kind of internalized.
I just want my children to be happy.
And unfortunately, there's still a lot of stigma around suicide. Did you feel that at the time?
I was quite surprised by it. I'd never been touched by suicide. It was something that happened in the news. Nobody would talk about it or actually say what happened.
I'm sure that's true, and that is sort of, I feel like, a hard thing because you don't want to glamorize it or over talk about it too much because there is something about like the contagion of it. But at the same time, it's good to like be able to ask people and hear about what's going on in their lives, not just saying I'm guilty of this, saying, "Oh, how are you? I'm fine. How are you?" when I've had a lousy day and I just say I'm fine. Sometimes, although it's sometimes overwhelming when people just like divulge everything that's gone wrong in their week with you, but I think for to have a good relationship, you need to ask questions. You need to be there to listen to somebody, even in if sometimes like it's uncomfortable. And I'm sure it is something that for certain people they just felt uncomfortable and like, well, if we don't mention it, then we can act like it didn't exist or we use euphemisms or something. And I think sometimes, yes, that's okay, but sometimes it's good to address things head on too.
And I found that really confusing at the time.
And obviously, your children were very young when this happened. Many families probably might struggle to work out, do we talk about it, do we not?
Yeah.
What's your advice on that?
Great question. That's a really, really good question because again, you don't want to scare children, but at the same time too, I think it's good to have an element of truth so that way you can talk about things and you can recognize things. And also, they're not caught unawares by somebody who doesn't know they don't know X and that person happens to say it and then they're shocked.
I think it's important never to lie. There's ways in being truthful and just being gentle. As a parent, you know your children better than anybody else.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's kind of like even in a very micro level when, I worked retail or something, sometimes you had to change up how you said something to somebody just because it worked better for them. So I think that's 100% a true case here.
The families I've spoken to who've had to endure suicide is a lot of unanswered questions that live with you forever, really, don't they?
I will forever go over those last few days with him wondering what I missed.
I think that would drive me nuts, to be quite honest. I would be constantly running it through my mind again and again and again and again and again. What did I miss? What's there? And how could I have done more? And I think that would, and I hate to say it because I'm not wanting to criticize the person too much, but I think it's cruel of people to do that in terms of suicide. Cause I just think it's cruel because the unanswered questions I feel like is awful. It's like they're trying to purposely cause more pain to people in their own selfish pursuits. Sorry, just putting that out there.
Before we lost George, we were just so happy. And I think this just shows that it really can happen to anyone.
If you could say something or wanted to say something to Paul, what would you have said?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a hard, and I'm sure one, again, she goes over again and again. And yeah, Miss Chloe is so right. Chloe Celeste, he's not talking about himself. He's not. He's asking her questions. And I think that's so important. And Pat, yes, you are talking way too much. I am talking too much. I do have to pause it every once in a while, or usually about every 15 seconds is the general rule for copyright reasons. And so I think that is unfortunate, but that's the reality of sort of how YouTube works. And so I do want to apologize for that. But that's just sort of how it has to go. Stacy says, everyone jumped on me, and Brittany just said it too. I've been in this exact situation, and I'm now a widow. I'm so sorry to hear that, Stacy. I really, really am. I can't even begin to imagine what the challenges of that are. So let's keep listening, because there is one point here where William gets quite emotional.
There's only one thing I would ever say to him if I had time with him, and that would be, why didn't you speak to me? I think I ask myself that every single day. He was absolutely devastated. He did keep blaming himself that weekend. But I would just like to sit him down like this and just say, why didn't you come to me? Because he's missed out on just so much joy. And
Yeah, I think, talking to people is so incredibly important.
we would have been okay. And I think that's what the hardest thing is. We would have been okay. You okay?
I'm sorry, it's hard to ask you questions that I know.
Hard,
no,
and
it is.
So I think William as well, because he has experienced those sorts of things, not in the same way, but obviously the sudden death of someone, and I'm sure the unanswered questions, with his mom, and sort of the suddenness of the relationship being ended. That's something he can't understand the suicide aspect as much as she can, but he can have an empathy there for the suddenness of a loss. And I think he experiences that, and he doesn't want to, I think, overwhelm her, and he feels uncomfortable asking these questions, which I think is great, because it is sometimes hard to ask questions of people when it's going to bring somebody up or bring something up. But I also think he does a great job of navigating this and really, again, putting the emphasis on her and her story, not on himself.
Experience lost yourself.
It's okay.
Life can throw you these awful curveballs, but by talking about it, by, having hope, you can continue.
I think that's true. Having hope is one of the most powerful emotions you can have. There's a Bible verse, what is it now? Perseverance produces character, hope, something to that effect. But it's a series of things. Suffering produces, I can't remember the whole thing, but it's like basically suffering, when you go through it, if you have, let's say, if you're leaning on the right things, you can get to this point of hope. And I think hope is a very, very powerful thing. And when people lose hope, it sort of can result in devastating consequences. And I think that's what he experienced. And I've heard people say as well that suicide is a final solution to a temporary problem. And there was another way to have dealt with this, that, obviously suicide will always be a part of human experience, which is very sad. And we can't get always away from it. But I think if we can tell people more and more, hey, this is a temporary situation, and what you're thinking of doing is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I think that's a great way to look at it.
Best way to prevent suicide is to talk about it. Talk about it early, talk about it with your loved ones, those you trust, your friends. So thank you for talking about it.
Well, thank you for talking about it too.
Aw, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. It says in the UK here, somebody dies by suicide every 90 minutes, but it doesn't have to be this way.
Oh, look who's here.
Oh, there's her mom. That's so sweet. I like that the moms and kids are there. That's so cute. That's so cute.
Chris, how are you?
Very well.
Very nice to see you.
And you too.
Thank you so much for letting me come and chat to Rianne, your mum. It's been lovely seeing her again and having a chat. So thank you so much. I'm going to take the wash cakes with me and have them in the car on my back.
There we go.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Also, she got a member of the British Empire, or Is it member? I can't really remember. Yeah.
Brilliant. Bye.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you.
Have a safe trip and a good rest
Thank
of the
you.
day.
Lovely to see you.
And you.
See you
Take
soon.
care.
Nice to meet you all.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
I like his car here too. It's actually kind of nondescript. Like, you know, it's a Range Rover or whatever, but it's not like, you know, he's not showing up there in a Bentley or those sorts of things.
You all right?
Aw.
Hey? Yeah. He's taking you to Tupperware. Okay.
Aw. You could tell she was kind of emotional when he left. It says talking about suicide is essential to prevent it. The Royal Foundation is uplifting charities across the 4 home nations to transform suicide prevention in the UK through a new national suicide prevention network.
Not really a typical Thursday. What are you saying? On the Welsh cake.
I kind of like actually this ending here. I think it's actually really, really good because what it's doing is, and I really love this, is that it's showing that things move on. And I think that's really, really good. Oh, Jacqueline, thank you so much. So, helping with the Bible verse there, he says, we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. So that's just, I think, a great sometimes way to think about it. And I really always have loved that. But yeah, I pretty much had it. That's good. It's like sometimes it's like you know something so well, but then you're trying to do it in a different circumstance and just totally like blows your brain. So I think that's a great interview. Elizabeth calls it groundbreaking and heart-wrenching interview. I'm so proud he's going to be our king. Yes, I feel like this was a great interview. And again, I love how this ended because it's them going back into the house and showing that life goes on and that there is hope after tragedy. And I think that's so important for people to hear because I'm sure, especially, I imagine at the time that having those two situations, so the death of her son and the suicide of her husband, happened so close together was just so incredibly overwhelming for her, as it would be for anyone to experience both of those things at the same time. And that's just, you know, it's unfathomable, like, you know, the compounding grief. And so how do you navigate that is it's really important. And we do have Lady Roxanne Perez who says Lady Gabrielle's husband committed the same as Rianne's husband. Yes. So that happened last year. And, you know, and what's terrible about that as well is that particular situation was twisted by some very, very nasty people to like claim there was some sort of like relationship struggle between the 3 of them. So, or the 4 of them, really, Catherine and William and Gabriella and her husband, Tom, I think his name was, and just, or Gabrielle's husband, totally horrific things. And there is, so, and it can happen so suddenly. He was particularly on meds. That's sort of what they have come to, is he was on particular meds, I think for sleeping related issues. And they feel like that really messed with his brain quite a bit. And it was just so horrible and tragic and sudden. And so Williams experienced that, I think, even more because he and Lady Gabriella Windsor, I mean, I don't think say they were close, but he was definitely close with her brother, Lord Frederick. And so I feel like he was at least, you know, aware of them. He didn't go to their wedding, him and Catherine didn't. But obviously when they go to weddings, it's always kind of a big deal. But it's challenging for sure to navigate those things. And Lizzie B says, there's hope after tragedy. That's a very good message, Miss Brittany. Yes, there's always hope there. And so that's so important. Gretchen the First says, who's been a member for 17 months, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry would have loved the impact of Princess Catherine and Prince William in things like this video, but lacked the empathy or self-awareness to come anywhere close. Yes, because even when they were launching, Harry and Meghan were launching the Parents Network on CBS, the interview spent most of its focus and effort on Harry and Meghan. It's like, I don't care about Harry and Meghan in this situation because William was, of course, very smart, which is to focus on the person who has experienced the tragedy. Because that person who's experienced a tragedy can 150% kind of convey things much better and elicit more empathy than Harry and Meghan in that particular situation. Because Harry and Meghan, it would be all about Meghan and her alleged ideation at one point. And they would have talked about it for a while. And then it would have gotten to, oh, let's talk to this person. Because that's how they did it in CBS. Because it's really always about them and their struggles rather than other people. And even in that particular interview with the Parents Network, I didn't even think, well, number one, the parents barely got time to speak. And one in particular, and this was just something where I was like, I had to have my mom watch it because I haven't raised kids, but I could never imagine my mom saying it because my mom was a super involved and engaged parent. And the woman they had interview, who was not, I don't think, the best reflection of their organization at all, just went basically, well, he had a job, he had a car, he was fine. And, then he ended his own life. And like, a car and a job does not equate to happiness. And what are you missing? And you're like blaming the algorithm for it when you clearly were missing something going on in your son's life. Like, I hate to see it. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news or too critical or whatever. But if you're just throwing your hands up and going, well, I don't know what happened. Well, I would argue then you're really not like you were not as connected to your son in that instance as you should have been. I'm not trying to be rude or critical or anything, but I don't think that's a great lesson. And even if, there's some situations where, obviously we don't know everything that happened in Rianne's situation, but we focused on the things that I think are good to focus on rather than focusing on things that I feel like muddy the water. And Harry and Meghan's team, which I feel like they've done quite a few times, did not help people in communicating. I don't feel like Harry and Meghan helped this woman actually be able to communicate her about what happened with her son, because it was basically like he was fine. He had a job, he had a car. All of a sudden he's gone. And I don't know why. And, you could say some of those things, but it also made her, I don't think, come across very well either. And then there was another parent that they brought up, and their kid had bought a drug through social media and had overdosed. And it's like, well, that's not really a social media problem. That was a drug addiction problem. So why are we equating all these things together? And I feel like Williams, again, the message there was very simple, clean, and efficient. This is what happened. We need to talk about it. The one thing, because this is all about talking, the importance of talking through issues. The one thing she would do if she could is to talk him and ask him to talk to her and share what was going on. And then how do you talk to your kids, and how do other people talk with you? These sorts of things. It was all encompassing, which is actually, again, I'm processing it in real time with you guys. What I love about it is that it's all about communication and talking. That was the message that the video was trying to send, is talk about what's going on in your life, talk about the issues you're having, find someone within your community, your friendship group, your family, whatever. If you're having something going on, talk to them about it. And that was the message of the video. Whereas I watched the Harry and Meghan thing, I was like, oh, we got the Parents Network with parents who had a spectrum of things happen to their children on social media. And Harry going, well, if your kid's rolling around in their room on their iPad, you don't want to know what they're doing. And then again, the question becomes, why is your kid alone with an iPad in their room? That's an incredibly stupid thing to do as a parent. If your kid is like 10 or even any age, really, wait till they're 18. That's just, again. Steven says Harry and Meghan, who's been a member for 9 months. Thank you so much, Steven. Says Harry and Meghan for 5 years tells us there is a problem. Yeah. And don't really offer any solutions. Whereas I feel like William's not really offering solutions, because in some ways there's just, people are going to be people. And unfortunately, they're going to do terrible, tragic things. There's just not a lot you can do to address that in some ways. But what he's telling us is that there is a really important issue there, which is talking. Let's talk. And I think that's a great message to convey. And Renee said, I think things resonate with William because of Catherine's cancer, losing a child, losing his mother, and being totally empathetic with her. Such a difference. Yes, I would agree right now that with William going through Catherine's cancer battle with her, I think he's a lot more sensitive to some of these things, because I imagine in some ways, I'm not saying exactly what he thought because I don't know, but your mind goes to some dark places. And I think that's something that's even more like, I'm sure he was reeling from the idea that his mother died when he was so young. And then all of a sudden, his wife, who's so healthy, all of a sudden, she has this cancer diagnosis. And I'm sure in some ways, mentally, it was like he was back to being 15 again, and his mother passing suddenly, and she was in the prime of her life. His wife's in the prime of her life. Now, I think she probably had some health issues leading up to the surgery and the cancer diagnosis. I don't think, but like they just thought it was going to be this surgery, this one thing, and then it became bigger and bigger and bigger, and everything that happened. So I think William, in so many ways, is so much more empathetic about it, which I think is quite amazing. So let's go ahead. Those were kind of the main things I wanted to talk about. Usually we leave the last 30 minutes or so to just general questions. So if you guys have anything that you want to ask real quickly here as we kind of wrap up for the end of the week, thank you so much for tuning in. I love that the Friday afternoon is sort of growing and growing, which I think is awesome. So let's go ahead and see here. So Fiona says Harry needs to file for divorce in London, a lot more expensive in California. That I don't know about, and I don't know what legally happened. Azuma says, what happened to Lemonada? So I do know Lemonada was sold. So I don't think it's totally 150%, let's say, female-led anymore. It was female-founded, but maybe not female-led. So I thought that was sort of kind of interesting. So as far as I'm aware, though, we have no more upcoming podcasts. If Meghan is working on something, I mean, bravo for her, I guess, for trying it again and again, but she didn't learn the lesson the first 2 times. Don't think number 3 is going to go any better. Meghan just needs to, and I've said this a lot, just need to accept that she's shallow, vain, and vapid, and stop trying to do like deep conversations about things she really doesn't know anything about, and just lean into the absurdity of her life. That I think would end up going much better than attempting to be all philosophical and like, I'm going to talk about business, and she doesn't know anything about business. So Momster says William is very empathetic and helping promote the platform, which will bring awareness. Yeah. Bianchi says having 3 little children, all of a sudden the thought of losing his wife and also becoming king alone, it's a terrible feeling. I'm sure it is, for sure. Leo says, what do you think about Hakan's visit to the States? I think it's awesome. It was sort of interesting because in the upper Midwest, there is a lot of people from Scandinavia descent ended up there. And so he was going to reconnect with them. I think he's come to New York. So been very fun. Susan says Prince William is so genuine in his approach, not to this, but everything he takes on. He also focuses on hope and moving forward. It makes a world of difference. Yes, I think hope and moving forward is a great way to go about it, not just going, oh, terrible. Like, again, you just compare Harry and Meghan's CBS interview about the Parents Network to this, and it's just like night and day difference. It's because Harry and Meghan have to make everything about themselves. And I don't think that's particularly helpful. I think the Parents Network is pointless. And it's just kind of, I think, piggybacking off the genuine grief of parents over the loss of their child to financially benefit themselves. Well, not to financially, I should say, to benefit themselves. Miss Chloe says she has another speaking thing on the 13th. She does. Oh my gosh, guys. And like they're trying to describe her, and I'm like, are you guys serious right now? Like, this woman has accomplished nothing. She has a company that is barely out of diapers. Like, it's still in the infant category. It's definitely not going gangbusters. It's like me doing a YouTube tutorial when I only had 1,000 subscribers. Now I gained 1,000 pretty quickly, which is fairly impressive, but it would be like me giving it a tutorial about it when I'm barely in it. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. And Liz M says, oh, I hadn't seen your earrings. They're beautiful. Why, thank you. I got them from the Tower of London. So they do have blue. I just was like grabbing them. Although these are like very strongly white gold and I have a yellow gold necklace and I'm like, oh, these clash a little bit, but whatever. Priyanki says lemonada is lemonade now. So Wendy says, I find it odd that Charles, William, and Harry all have different manners of speech, even though they're part of the same family. I'm not super surprised because Charles, in some ways, was always very busy when his kids were kids and stuff. So I don't think they picked up too much. Legina says, Brittany Perfecto. Janet says, have you been able to look at the Arlie tiara that was auctioned at Leon and Turnbull in Edinburgh? I have not had a chance to look at that yet. So Stephen Magnus says, oh yeah, African parks. Now Chad has evicted African parks from their country, will Congo and others victims. So here's the thing about African parks and this particular situation. So Chad dropped African parks out of its country, kind of gave it the old kickster. And the question becomes, and everybody jumps to, and they mention the same issues that, let's say, have been identified in the DRC and everything. So I just want to preface this by saying it's not necessarily the win some people think it is for Harry, or sorry, not for Harry, for like against African parks. Because guys, when it comes to Africa, not every country in Africa, but a good portion of them are wildly, massively corrupt. So kicking out African parks could be the result of any issue. They could want their money. They could want what they do so that they can financially benefit themselves. They want to cover up something. And so if they kick out an overseer, they get to control it. Like there are so many issues here that are beyond just, oh, it's Harry's fault, because everybody defaults to, oh, Harry's the problem. When it comes to African parks in this particular situation, I'm not entirely sure that's the case. Not entirely sure that's the case. I think when it comes to African parks, yes, there were some bad things going on in the DRC and probably in other areas too, but Chad maybe also probably had a financial something motive to get African parks out, and they were able to do so. So that is just something to remember, because everybody's default is always it's Harry's fault. And I get it. Oftentimes it is. But when it comes to this particular region, there are so many things at play here. Like I would be very, 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 very hesitant to just go, oh, it's Harry and African Park's fault. Not entirely sure it is. Oh, we always gotta preface that there. All right. And Stephen, thank you so much for the super chat here as well. Archwell Foundation give $50,000 to Parents Together Foundation, who are already advocates for online kid abuse. Now it's their parents network. Yeah. So I feel like when it comes to Harry and Meghan as well, when it comes to any other partnerships, it's always about piggybacking off of other people's successes. And Harry and like Meghan, like they do the least amount all the time. So yeah, thank you so much for the super chat. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all that they partnered with another organization that's already established and that they can just piggyback off of. That's just their MO. Amanda West says, what do you think Meghan will do next? I mean, honestly, we're in Groundhog's Day. She keeps doing the same thing, thinking she'll get different results. I mean, I think part of the reason that the Paris trip kicked off so much is that it was something that she hasn't done before. And of course, the Diana thing was pretty twisted. So I think that got a reaction. But obviously, even though she got attention, like the reaction was broadly negative to the event. So I don't think it played as well for her as she wanted it to, because what I think Meghan just can't seem to grasp yet is that anything she does, even something that's pretty innocuous, will be massively, 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 completely and utterly like obsessed over. And that is something she's created, and she likes that. But at the same time, that results in everybody looking at everything she does with a very, very critical eye, and she doesn't like that. And that's just not going to go away. So I don't know what she'll do next, but I think she'll just constantly be trying to do things to get attention. And I don't know where that goes. I don't see As Ever surviving. I think it's struggling right now. It's already struggling. She'll have the one holiday special with Netflix, and that's it for With Love. Because again, that thing cratered into oblivion. Her fans will tell you it did well. It did not. It did not. No matter what Ted Sandros says, Ted Sandros knows that With Love Meghan flopped. He's not an idiot. He is very careful in the language that he uses regarding Meghan. And what he's basically saying, you could say, is that, or at least how I tend to read him, is that he wants to keep her around in case something goes belly up somewhere. Either the divorce, royal family, something. That's why Netflix is keeping them somewhat in the sphere. They are not invested in As Ever succeeding. I don't think they have any illusions that that thing is going to be $1 billion company. They know it's terrible. I mean, guys, it took her a week to send an email about her new wine launch. It took her a week. And then she talked about a holiday weekend. You know, when you gather for the holiday weekend. And I remember looking at the text going, holiday weekend? We're like in mid-October. What holiday weekend are you talking about? She was talking about freaking Columbus Day. Nobody gathers around the table for freaking Columbus Day. Nobody even gets it off. Maybe schools, and I don't even know if schools do. Maybe like government and state offices, they may close. Banks may close on Columbus Day. Nobody else closes. There are no Columbus Day meals. I was like, what? Because I initially thought she was talking about Thanksgiving. And it's like, Thanksgiving is like a month and a half away or like 2 months away. What are you talking about? Or a month away? And I'm like, oh, she's talking about freaking Columbus Day. Like, again, talk about an absolute train wreck of a brand. It's just terrible. And she actually showed a picture somewhere. I think maybe it was on Instagram or something, showing off the As Ever cork. And I'm like, when I can clearly see on your original website, you had a 2023 cork. So which one is real? Like, I don't know. It's just, oh my gosh. I just want the brand to fail based on how horribly it is managed from the get-go. I feel like it's like kind of like annoying when a show is doing really well, but it's not getting the viewership and they cancel it anyways. And then they keep renewing the stupid show. That's what I feel like this is like. It's like the stupid show should fail. In this case, As Ever, because it's horribly managed. The products are horrible. Like none of it's proprietary or interesting or whatever. And then you may have a really good brand, let's say like The Vampire's Wife, which I did want to dress from them at some point, shuttered. And it's not because the stuff wasn't good. It's just because the fashion industry is so brutal and they were having trouble getting, I don't know, it was weird. Anyways, I'm like, okay. But we do have Disfan as well giving a super chat here saying, I love the clip where that was shown of Prince William and the woman who lost her husband. Yes, we did that whole thing. It was great. And Disfan also said, thank you again for the super chat. Don't think we have seen it before, but it reminded me of Queen Elizabeth during the E-Day and Britannia was decommissioned. Yes, that was really hard for her. She really loved Britannia. And I honestly don't totally get it, but it was very sad. But I thought Williams was very, very good. So a little commentator says, any talk of Meghan and Harry being featured on South Park again? I've heard like people like saying it's happening or something on X, but we haven't seen any movement. Diane says, when is your next trip? So I did officially kind of secure one for next year. So I'll be sharing more about that later. And I want to do 3. I'm hoping to do one in the summer, one in the spring, one in the fall. So I got the fall one secured because of the last dates available. And summer and spring, I'm debating a couple options. So Princess Goose said, do we know if Prince George is going to Eton or is there a school they can go to that's non-boarding but public? That I do not know yet. Although apparently it's been reported by Richard Eden that Harry signed Archie up for Eton, which I could see him doing, weirdly. Carol says, I think Meghan is dead talent and terminated by her new owner soon. Well, it's not, I don't know. Again, she gets eyeballs on things, but it's not like everything Harry and Meghan do, it's like a firework. It flashes really hot for a second and then it dims and it crumbles back to earth. That's everything they've done since they've left. Everything has been a big sparkle and boom, and then nothing. That is, so if you want something looked at for a day or two, let them do something. But other than that, if you want to keep customers engaged and stuff like that, Harry and Meghan are not your crowd. Evan Knox says, A, B, and C listers need to remind Meghan that she's beneath them. That's really gets through. It assaults her narcissism. Oh, man. So Clifford, which is very true, just like everything she does, not doing much and claiming to be a founder and an entrepreneur. Yeah, and like really getting bored of her talking endlessly about what a founder she is and everything. Leo says, have you ever met a royal before? I have. I met Catherine. Met Catherine at the Dog and Duck in 2023, and I have a selfie with her. Susan G says, I am disgusted with the well-known people I've seen attending this organization's functions. I would have no part in anything that brought these two humanitarians of the year. So, like, the thing about Hollywood people and all these people and everything is that it's all just artifice. None of these people are good people. None of these people are likable people, really, in a lot of ways. Like, Hollywood is the cesspool of the world, and that's who a lot of people, Harry and Meghan, associate with. BMJ says, I really enjoyed Victoria Beckham's documentary on Netflix. She was honest about her ego, insecurities, failures, humility, and going in different directions and success. This is what Meghan lacks. Yes, interesting. I would say that's 100% correct when it comes to Victoria. I haven't watched the documentary yet, but Meghan's problem is that she can't really joke at herself. And when she attempts to do that, she's trying so hard to be clever and to be self-deprecating that comes across as really, really fake because she's trying so hard to do it. And so I feel like there was this bit, and I don't know how true it is, but it was just so freaking funny that Victoria Beckham is like talking about why she doesn't smile and or like why she grimace smiles or whatever. And she like gives this such ridiculous explanation. Like, she's like, well, he stands on my left and I like my lips go up with my left. And it was like so ridiculous. It made me laugh. I'm like, I think she's joking about herself. And I'm like, just being ridiculous because her husband's like, oh, whatever. Evan Knox says, has anyone heard the response to Jam Tong Gate? No, I don't know if she's flipped. But again, it goes to prove, and it proves two things. Number one, that Meghan does not use her own products, which is, I think, very, very important. Why are you buying something from a woman who refuses herself to use it? Number two is that she doesn't really do anything she claims to do. So she's not really in there all the time making jam. MGM Live says, what was that their $50 donation made to Archwell? No, I think they made it from Archwell to somebody else. Asma says, what does Harry do all day? I really honestly have no idea what that guy does. And BMJ says, Victoria's been working in the fashion line for 17 years. Not an instant success, even though she was famous before the business launched. Exactly. It took a long time. David Beckham floated that business for a really, really long time. I would say it was only within the last couple of years ago that it could really, really be considered a success. And yeah, I think it almost folded a couple of times. Coastal Angel says, where can you see Prince William and Catherine going from here? Any advice? I don't know. I think they're doing a pretty good job. I think, and again, I've been clear on this. I think they need to do maybe a little bit better job of addressing the rumblings of work shyness. I think there's maybe some things they can do to help that. But other than that, I think they're doing pretty well. Azima says, is As Ever still going? Sadly, yes. Zev says, has the holiday special been filmed yet? I would imagine it was probably already in the tank, which is right they announced it. I think it was already done. Princess Goose says, Harry and Meghan are definitely parasites. They leech off other charities and do nothing real for them. Yeah. Opinion says, Ted Sanders says he believes Meghan is a rock star. Yeah, he didn't renew her contract. Exactly. These people lie. I follow a lot of nerddom, and what I found really interesting is that they'll complain a lot about James Gunn because he'll like flat out lie. I think the big one recently was that he said, oh no, Superman's not going to come to streaming for X number of days or whatever, or X number of weeks. And it was like literally on streaming the next week. And he had to have known that. He's the head of DC. He was lying. These people lie. And I think that's what's been really interesting about the pandemic and everything and the growth of social media is that we realize, number one, how like, I don't mean to be harsh, but it's kind of true, that a lot of celebrities are idiots and that really they offer, like, we don't really admire them the same way we do anymore. It's like mostly actually moved on to influencers, which is both good and bad, but people more admire influencers than I think they do Hollywood celebrities anymore. And so Meghan, again, made a really kind of dumb decision to move them back to Hollywood because Hollywood is failing and flailing. Priyanki says, I think Meghan's Instagram video did upset Harry. It did hurt. It's already problematic relationship. Maybe. And it's weird she hasn't posted anything about it, but she posted herself sashaying out of the hotel, like doing her Zoolander walk, man. She's never going to live that down. Nika says, I really hope there won't be a Diana documentary. I could definitely see that being a possibility, though. Azuma says, what's Columbus Day? Where we celebrate, allegedly, Christopher Columbus discovering the New World, his birthday or something. I don't know. That's the thing, is sometimes we have holidays like Labor Day. I don't really know anything about Labor Day, except for maybe it came about in the 30s or something. But now it's like an official holiday, although it's become something more of a like end of summer holiday, and that's why people do it. When it comes though to Columbus Day, like nobody celebrates it. It's there to celebrate Christopher Columbus because he discovered the New World in 1492. Columbus sailed the ocean blue. You never heard that. Stephen Magnus, thank you so much for the super chat, who said 25,000 to Project Healthy Minds in 2022 from Archwell Foundation. No grant in 2021, 2023. In December, Archwell will reveal 2024, 990. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. And you also said here, Ted Sanders has been alleged to have personal interest in Meghan's Netflix payments. We shall see. Betsy says it's Indigenous Peoples Day in Maine. Yeah, some people have changed it to Indigenous Peoples Day because they don't like Christopher Columbus. So. Jacqueline says Canada celebrates Thanksgiving on Monday, October 13th. Okay. But what's funny is that Meghan doesn't sell her wine in Canada. And she just said holiday. Like if she had said what holiday it was, but as far as I'm aware, she hasn't sold any of her wine anywhere else. Michelle says people were waiting, saying she was trying to get Mariah Carey for her Christmas show. That's funny. Renee says, only Banks, LOL. Yeah. Carol says Victoria Beckham documentary is a masterclass in how to do a documentary. That's interesting. So Steven says Netflix had a totally different way to hype up Victoria Beckham series. Yes, they actually put money into promoting it. Makes a big difference. Gretchen the First says, I'd love to see Meghan Markle's engagement numbers. Clicks are one thing, but sales are another. Exactly. Because Meghan and Harry generate noise, but doesn't convert. And we've seen this time and time again. She launches a brand. Yeah, she gets a lot of noise. Yeah, it sells out, but it's not selling out anymore. And I think the numbers have trickled into nothing. Her show, big debut, cratered into oblivion second time around. They just don't, even somebody who sort of liked the show just wasn't really like aware. She's like, oh, it came back. She's like, I haven't watched it. I may watch it. Like it wasn't something where some people were like clamoring for season 2. And that's just, yeah. Miss Chloe says Victoria Beckham can laugh at herself. That's so important. Yeah, Lavenda says, appreciated Victoria's Netflix admitting she wasn't doing business correctly. She listened. That's a great thing to do. Coastal Angel says, will you show the selfie? Yeah, I can show the selfie. It's been on my ex for a long time. I will probably move it just because I want to do something else on the cover of X, but because people misinterpret some of this. But yeah, there's me and Catherine back in 2023 outside the Dog and Duck. I was there for 4 hours, I think. So definitely, if you want to watch a royal and you know where they're going to be, get there early. Leo says, who's your least favorite male royal in the British royal family besides Andrew and the other families? I don't know. I don't really have a least favorite. I don't have strong opinions about any of them, I guess. Princess Goose says, what's the female version of Eaton? Is there one? I do not know, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. Jasmine says, what a brave woman speaking up about her family tragedy. Once again, Prince William uses his position so well to highlight the people working to stop this tragic waste of lives. No ego, just compassion. Exactly. Coastal Angel says, will you watch the Victoria documentary? Maybe. I might. I'll probably will. Steven says, Vikings found America first. That is true. But, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. We kind of focus on Columbus. Susan G says, I hope that after the disgusting stunt she pulled in Paris, she'll finally come to out flushed to by some consequence and go away for good. No, Meghan will always, when she's 80, she'll still be trying to strut for the camera. That will always be Meghan. Gretchen the First says, Princess Catherine wore Victoria Beckham suit on release day, soft power again. Yeah, I did a whole video on that for Royal Fashion News. Carol said Victoria Beckham documentary premiere had Victoria Beckham and her family and the Spice Girls walking the red carpet. Asma says, is Eugenie still close with Harry? I don't know. I don't think it's close. Nika said, the people who say you work for Catherine because you have a selfie with her are really ridiculous. Yes. Oh my gosh. People make the most ridiculous things about it. Like, some people are like, well, it was only, they say only like influencers or somebody were called there. I was like, no, no, no. Number one, I'm like a news commentator. I'm not an influencer person. Number two, I got there super duper early. That's how you do it. I just got there early. I'm just somebody who actually pays attention. And I went there for news purposes. Now, if I got to meet her, that was awesome. But I went there for news purposes. I wanted pictures. I wanted to cover a royal event in person. That's why I went. It's actually been my number one, I think, live stream ever. I think I got 4,000 people on that live stream. So, yeah. Elizabeth says, Cheltenham Ladies College is probably the equivalent to Eton, if no one answered that already. Good to know. Zeb said, perfect selfie. Mine came out awful. Aw. Liz M says, that is the most amazing pic. Why, thank you. I was just like, that was the one thing I wanted. I wanted a selfie. I wanted a selfie. Of course, Christopher Bosey kind of turned that whole thing sideways because he posted about it and, of course, insinuating that I worked for her, that Catherine gives attention to people who don't like Meghan or something idiotic like that. It was very, very obnoxious. And then somehow I got into a spat with the guy who plays Harry on Sex and the City. I don't know how. Clifford said, the Archwell Foundation has not done anything really of value or help other people. Remember, service is universal, yet they have not shown any universality for anything they do. They piggyback off others. Very true. Anne says, what are they doing exactly for children? In France, nobody talks about them except Elle magazine. Yeah, no, they're not doing anything. It's just a bunch of wishy-washy stuff. Asma says, Christopher Bosey, him again. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Princess Goose says, two lovely ladies smiling. Why, thank you. Carol said, Eugenie went to Marlborough College. Asma says, entire need to go. It's late here. I totally understand. And Princess Goose says, he's so sleazy. I just can't stand him. I haven't seen or been tracking him in quite a while. So what I really wanted to do when, because I just thought it was funny, is that Christopher Bosey kept going again and again and again that Florida would turn blue. So basically Florida would go Democrat and that Trump wouldn't lose the election by a landslide. And we obviously know what happened. So I was just remember sitting there going, I'm just going to keep an eye on this because if he's like really, really wrong, it really does kind of undermine his reputation a bit. And he was, of course, very, very, very wrong. It was kind of funny. Sharon says, do you go over all the comments? I do not. I try to keep up with some on X just because obviously Sussex Squad people can be quite abusive on there. So I just kind of keep an eye on it. But I don't, it would take me, guys, hours upon hours to go over every comment. So I wish I could, but it's just not possible. But guys, we will go ahead and wrap up here really soon. Sir Squirrel Lot says, give a like. Be sure to subscribe. Love to Miss Pippa and Brittany. Why, thank you. Airbay Tossa says, hi, Brittany and everyone. Love that picture of you with Catherine. Good morning from an American in Australia. Very late, but I'm so happy to be with you all. Why, thank you. Elena says, been mostly driving during this live. Thanks for keeping me company, Brittany and chat. Why, thank you. Leo says, I like to write fan fictions about the royals a lot. I hope that's not weird. I don't post them online for privacy reasons. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Just because I don't know the stipulations there. Catwoman says, what children? I do think Harry and Meghan have children. Never been anti them having that. MJ Clark says, Victoria Beckham comes across like a real person, unlike Meghan. So yeah, Meghan and Harry's approach is so outdated with publicity since like it's the 90s, 2000s. Very true. Carol says, I could have told you Florida is not going Democratic, born and raised in Florida. Yeah, I remember seeing that going, no. DeSantis is well liked. Generally, if whoever is the governor of a particular state, like whatever political party they are, the state tends to go in that direction. So I'm like, okay, either he knows something I don't know, or he is really, really wrong. And he was really, really wrong. Princess Goose says, yeah, Florida elected DeSantis by a landslide. So I don't see Florida going blue anytime soon. Yeah, I think Florida going blue is kind of dead in the water anymore. Zeb says, I think there are too many comments to read. Great live. Why, thank you. Shaz says, I've read Have to Head. Brittany, thanks for a great chat. And all in the chat, keeping the conversation going. Take care. Take care, stay safe, and keep smiling. Why, thank you. Lizzie B says, I hope Miss Pippa is okay. Yes, she is downstairs sleeping. I keep the door open, though, just in case you wanted to come up. Susan G says, thanks, Brittany. Sharon says, I missed the first hour. I want to watch it now, LOL. Sir Squirrel Lot says, what's the next big balcony event? Probably not until next year. Steven said, could Meghan recognize Archie in the line about being wasted for so long? Of course she could, but yeah. Carol says, have to make supper, and I probably need to head out as well, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's been an amazing, amazing live. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in and chatting. I shall speak to you again very soon. You'll see bits of this live popping up this weekend with the particular segments. I've been doing that recently, just FYI. If you've already watched the live, the videos will be connected to that unless we go with something different. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Stay safe, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Bye.